Welcome to Be Now for May 23rd, 2023. I'm Don McLeod, and I'm joined by Fazal Khan. Faz, how's it going today?
Hi, Don. I had a nice, relaxing, long weekend.
Really?
I got to bed on a reasonable hour. No fireworks.
Really?
Well, not many fireworks. I think people are behaving themselves now.
I did hear fireworks, but you know what? It wasn't as bad as Diwali or something like that. So, maybe the message is getting out. We'll see. We'll see when the big celebrations come later in the year.
Yeah, Canada Day would be another big test,
That
but
would be the
definitely
big one.
Diwali is the big test.
Yep.
Okay.
So what do we got going today?
Okay, so our guest is Caledon's Allan Thompson, former mayor who recently retired after the last municipal election, and we got some big topics we want to ask him about. We got the region is dissolving.
Yep.
We talked about that last week. Bonnie is running. Well, she's
running.
Kind of running.
She's running
to go after Doug Ford, which is interesting timing. And there's lots happening in the region, so it's great to have a voice. And as you said last week, hopefully, I'm hoping Allan starts to say some controversial things. I'm sure he has opinions.
Well, you're trying to get him in hot water. The guy just retired. Yeah. You're trying to bring him back into the fold here. He's having a nice time.
I've seen some articles from the usual suspects, and whenever it's in there, I don't believe
the poor guy is just like last week he was sowing corn. Now you want to, basically you want him to dig a grave.
No, I'm not digging a grave. No. Okay. All right. So let's start with a couple of topics, Don, before we get before we have Allan on. The first is sports gambling, and both you and I saw this tweet, and I'm going to see if I can figure out how to get it up here.
Yep.
So I don't know, Don. You're an NFL fan. I'm a basketball fan. I'm assuming you can bet on the NBA. On the NFL.
Oh, you can bet on anything. The NFL and Vegas is one of the big sports books in Vegas. Make tons of money on that. That's the biggest one, the Super Bowl.
Yeah, and this last season, I don't know what happened. I guess some regulations changed, but it seems like everything is about gambling now when you turn on the TV and watch one of these sports, and I don't like it.
Yeah,
I want to watch a game and not have odds as to who's going to win, right?
Yeah, like I mentioned that last week, that's a topic we're going to cover because basically I just see it getting way out of hand. I see, before Proline, you had to go in, fill out the card. Now you can do it online. What's the, where's the sort of oversight, on the age limit and so on and so forth. And former principal in the hockey dad, Carl Subban, basically, he's leading a ban to sports gambling because I see those ads everywhere.
Well, not a ban on sports gambling, a ban on advertising.
Right. Yeah.
Sports gambling.
Yeah, because basically it's hitting. You can see who it's hitting. Those ads are targeting young people. They're not targeting people like me and you. They're targeting young people to get them into betting. And it's like you're talking about, people are trying to build, a nest egg to buy a house and so on and so forth. And at the same time, put money on odds and stuff. I mean, it's a dangerous precedent because I've seen people where they lose a lot of money, right? They've been, even NFL quarterbacks, there was one, I forget his name, like he lost like something like $15 million, like gambling. And it's like,
combined with the addictiveness of social media, and it's like I think the Surgeon General of the United States said we need to do more research on the effects of social media on young people, let alone adding gambling to the mix. Now, it's just last week we also saw a tweet from supposedly a teacher in the region of Peel in Mississauga who was basically listing all that's wrong in her school or his school. I don't think it was, I'm just assuming it's her. But the violence, the lack of respect from young people, and this was a middle school, the zero consequences, students are basically let to come back in. It's not, I forget the exact terminology the teacher used, but it's not a place of learning anymore.
No, and the problem is, I mean, at some point in time, the Peel District School Board has to confront that. I haven't seen a peep out of them, but and I know, it's probably going on. It's not something, if something like that comes on, and that's a different topic as well. But at the same time, getting back to sports ads and so on and so forth and social media, the funny part, if you watch The Daily Show, one of the comments on The Daily Show was, all federal employees, they want TikTok off, off their phones. All federal employees in the States, and I think in Canada as well. In China, kids are only allowed to be on the internet for, I think it's 4 hours and something like that. So here, China, which runs TikTok and everything else, they understand the concept of limiting the time frame. It's like having your kid watch TV 24/7. That is not a healthy atmosphere. And most people, you get sucked into social media. And I've done it too, where you just sit there and it's like, wow, a half an hour just went and all you're doing is scrolling. So for kids, that's a big problem. So we will.
And then also, we didn't even talk about artificial intelligence and all the content that's coming out now that's not even being generated by people.
Yeah.
It's kind of specific to a user and how easy it is to do. It's just, Don, I'm a technology guy, and the more we're a bunch of old guys here, Don. Maybe we're scared of this stuff, but it's just, I don't know where it's leading to, but it's not somewhere positive.
No, I don't see, gambling is not something. It's like, there's a reason they don't have, drinking liquor ads on TV and stuff like that. But, at some point in time, there's got to be a limit on some sort of social responsibility, whether it be talking about gambling, drinking, so on and so forth. But
and I think with the sports gambling ad specifically, we're kind of normalizing it for young people, so that when they do get to that gambling age, it's like, of course they'll do it. Whereas I think right now a lot of people say, well, it's just a waste of my money, or you're doing it for entertainment purposes, and going in, you're probably not going to win in the long term, but you're just doing it for fun, which is fine.
Well, we'll watch that, and that's got to be a different show that we talk to someone in regards to that, because there's a whole bunch of problems with that I agree with, Subhen's father.
Okay, let's move on. And so the next topic here, Don, is cycling in Brampton. As everybody knows, I recently got an e-bike, and I've been riding this thing all over my part of Brampton for a while, for a couple of weeks. It's a lot of fun, but I'm seeing all sorts of issues with cycling. It's relatively dangerous, right? What I want my kids doing, what I'm doing. They're actually worried for me. They want to know where I'm riding and if I'm riding on the road. And so this is a picture I clicked on Chinguacousy Road, north of Steeles. I don't know what's going on with this development, but there used to be like small houses on Chinguacousy Road with driveways there.
Yeah.
I think they built the townhouses and left the driveway entrances. I don't know if they're going to redo those curbs so you can't do this, but it's all sorts of crazy stuff I'm seeing riding. Like this guy's parked. That's a multi-use pathway. I'd be worried if that was my car, if somebody keying it, right?
Well, I talked about this before, and for cycling infrastructure, paint on a road is not cycling infrastructure, right? Protected bike lanes are where you want to be. Riding on the sidewalk, I've seen people with mopeds, e-bikes, everything, like you name it, right? I've seen it. I've seen a motorcycle, basically someone driving a dirt bike on a sidewalk, because they were basically, if they're driving on the road, they didn't have any helmet and so on. Like, it's insane, right? So bike lanes are not a little paint on the road. It's solid infrastructure. But
so in a nutshell, I am disappointed with the cycling infrastructure. We've had people in the city who've been bike advocates, and I just assumed that we were further along than we were. But until you hop on a bike and try to go more than a couple kilometers, and you try to do it to get from point A to point B, not just for leisure, you realize there's a lot that needs to be done to make it something that anybody can do for transportation.
Yeah, and it's like, you can do it. And I've seen people, we've had biking advocates where they bike and so on and so forth, which is fine. You're taking your life into your own hands. You can do that. That's fine. It's not a problem. If you want to bike the paths that, go through the parks and so on and so forth, okay, that's fine. But if you want to go to point A, point B along a road to a grocery store or something like that, that's where cycling becomes a daily thing that you can use, right? It's totally
even
different.
passing people on a multi-use path like this, my bike comes with a bell, so I'm using it like crazy. But to me, it's you stay to your right and you pass to the left. So you got two people walking beside each other, taking up the whole pathway. I ding, assuming the person's going to go to their right and I can pass on their left. They don't know what to do. One person's going this way. It's like, so I got to slow down, and then go through it. It's like even the pedestrians don't really know how to deal with cyclists because I guess there's not that many on a regular basis, right? And then nighttime, people are walking a lot now.
Yeah.
And they're not as my bike has a light, but it's not like a huge light or like a car. There's no reflective clothing on people. And I guess people aren't expecting to see in these multi-use paths a bike, let alone an e-bike. And an e-bike can go pretty quick, but I don't have it on electric mode when at night, especially around dusk when I know there's people around. But it's an amazing experience. I definitely see the value in biking. So I'm going to definitely be advocating for more things, at least where I live, and hopefully, join up the community, because I know there are a lot of people advocating for biking. Even the maps, Don. I'm looking at the maps that on the city's website. It makes no sense to me.
Well, a lot of times I'll go through the park and then it'll split off into different ways, and there's no signage. I go to one, I get into a circle. Yeah. But whatever, we'll cover that going forward.
Google Maps isn't great either, because it knows where the construction is. I figured I'll just follow Google Maps, and I get to I had to ride around. What's that park near where I live? The big park. It's going to come to me on Credit View and north of Steeles. What is that? Anyways, I had to go around the park because the GPS took me to a place where basically it was blocked off. They're doing some major construction on the road. There's no way for me to go around it. And on a bike, luckily it was an e-bike. I didn't have to, it was probably like a 15-minute detour, but, it wasn't updated. I don't think a car would have been allowed through, but it allowed me as a cyclist to go through. So anyways, lots more to come on this.
Yeah, I mean, that's again, it's a different topic that we could talk about a whole show in regards to that, because more and more people, this is a time where people want to get out and bike and get exercise because of the weather. And it's a situation where even me with my bike, when I go biking, I try and make sure that I don't do the major roads if I don't have to, because I've seen people driving where they're drifting right into those bike lanes and they don't care, and then they're not sure. I've seen people race through the bike lanes to get ahead of people up ahead because they think they're going too slow.
Yeah.
So anyway,
lots of issues. Yeah. All right, now for our I don't know what we want to call our
main event.
The main event. Here we go.
There you go.
Allan Thompson.
Mr. Allan Thompson, former Mayor of Caledon, the country gentleman sowing corn. How many acres have you done so far, Allan?
Oh, sorry. My bad, Allan. Your mic's now on.
Now he's ready. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So no, just 501 acres so far. So.
Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
A gentleman farmer.
Okay.
So how are you missing? Are you missing being mayor?
To be truthfully, do I miss it? Yeah, I do. I'd be lying if I said I didn't. The workings, the excitement with all the changes today, that are happening. That's fun. I kind of wish I was there, but on the other hand, I'm really glad to have my life back.
What does your wife think?
She hasn't shot me yet, so that's
okay.
Yeah. No, lay all fooling aside. It's good. For balance, I put about 20 years into it. It's been a great run. Enjoyed every minute of it. But looking back on this past spring and winter, I don't know what I've been able to accomplish if I was still there, just with the demands and family. I got an aging father still living on his own. I got 2 grandsons now. The youngest one, he's 11 months now, and almost running. And the older one, he's 13 months, and he's going. They're both going concerns, and I've been able to enjoy them and be able to plan something with the weekends or with my friends, which I haven't never been able to do the last 8 years. Right, you're going 24/7. Yeah,
well, that's great. So we brought you in because I know way back in November last year we were talking, and you mentioned then, and that Bonnie was going to be running for the Liberal leadership. Well, she's floated it out there. I still think she's going to run. I don't think that there's anybody that probably could beat her in the Liberal Party as of now. What are your thoughts on this? Because I know you brought it up a long time ago.
I think that's where her first love is. She, she's done a great job. She's been mayor, but I really think she loves the federal and provincial politics of things. She's a dedicated liberal for the party, and they definitely need somebody to turn the party around. But I think she's testing the waters. I think she's teasing a little bit, but she hasn't been shutting it down, and you see the stuff floating out on social media. Yeah. It's
so you mentioned that, before, there was called, basically the Liberal Party right now is called the minivan party. They can all fit into a minivan.
Yeah, they can now with Mitzi Hunter gone. They don't, it's.
Oh, they can go to a subcompact now. So they've got a big hill to climb, but before the next election. I mean, I'm thinking the leadership, I think the review is December 2nd, the vote is. And then you're left with about 2 years before the next election. So somebody's got to get on their high horse and make a stand here, because the last election, they were just wiped off the face because, they recycled the old candidates when they brought out, Del Duca and all these other people. That it's like, it was just a mishmash of let's throw somebody out there and see what happens.
Well, there was no vision or plan either, right? What was there in their platform?
I don't know. Bring back the old party.
They definitely need a leader that's going to give them some direction and some profile that'll be able to rekindle it. Listen, we've watched that. We've watched how, parties have been there for a while. We watched the Conservatives provincially and federally almost evaporate after a long legacy. You've seen that with the Liberals as well. Until Trudeau, I mean, they were struggling to get something going, right? So since Chrétien and Paul Martin, so and before that, they've all seemed to have to blow up to rebuild, and I think this is where they need. Knowing the province of Ontario, to me, you need opposition parties. That's what democracy is about, to hold accountability there.
She was talking today. I know I saw a clip from Steve Paikin's agenda, and she was talking about she wants to be a more centrist sort of government, right? She felt that the Liberal Party in the last election basically went too far left, lost a lot of their voters, and I guess by saying centrist, she wants to take some of those sort of Doug Ford voters and bring them back to the Liberal Party, rather than a total NDP. She didn't say it, but she felt that the Liberals went way to the left, more NDP than the NDP.
I agree. And I don't think it is even just this last time. I think even under the win, you really yielded that way. I think they were trying to hold the NDP in check. But to me, you look at the Davis era, that was a long time, but they were a centralist party. They weren't real right-wing conservative. And I think this goes the same federally as provincially. It's whoever's that centrist is going to have that support. Question is, can she beat Ford? I don't think so. Not right today.
What about the candidates? Should they be? You're looking for a younger demographic to represent the party. I mean, Bonnie's not young, but at the same time, she's not the old, liberal dragouts. She's someone new. She's trying to attract, as you said, she's had a high profile in Mississauga for quite some time. Anointed by Hazel, that goes a long way. I'm sure that it's an interesting concept if you call for the dissolution of Mississauga and then you decide to run for the Liberal Party or, Peel Region, and then run for the Liberal Party at the same time.
Well, maybe she figures her job's done in Mississauga now and she moves on, right? Because she's never talked about anything else, right?
Yeah. Well, for the last 40 years, Hazel and her is like, we want to split. And then when they do get the split, she's splitting. Right? So,
maybe she figures her job's done. I don't know. I think you need to put Bonnie on and ask her that question. But I do know where her passion is. And I'll tell you, if I was a betting, like you were talking about betting, I totally agree with what you guys are saying on that previously. But yeah, say if I was betting on it, I think my odds would be pretty much in favor that she'll probably go for it.
Do you see anybody being a direct conflict to basically her being anointed on December 2nd?
Well, I know there's a federal MP in Toronto that's talking about it, but not a big, outside of Toronto isn't that well known, and she's got to get out and win the rest of Ontario, right? So it's just not. It isn't just Toronto area too.
Yeah.
She's got to get out and build that support.
Well,
so it's going to be interesting to see where that goes, but there needs to be a good opposition party, and you know, to me, I always say, country's good when we have some. When democracy works best is when it isn't just one party.
Right. When you have good opposition and intellectual competition that basically is, can, talking back and forth and give you some sort of, give and take. I mean, that's important too.
Oh, absolutely. It is. Right. So,
yeah. So Alan, we only have a few more minutes. Let's talk about Caledon. So a lot of us do, we all saw the separation basically of Brampton and Mississauga coming. Nobody really knew what was happening with Caledon. And now it looks like Caledon's going to be, just like Mississauga and Brampton, an independent municipality. Is that something you see as a permanent, or is that just what they put in the act? And, because the mayor of the new mayor of Caledon is saying that potentially they'll join with York. What do you envision for the future of Caledon?
Caledon should go on its own. And the Ernst Young report that the region had done that Mississauga was all upset about. I really think right now, mayor and council, what they need to do is reach back to get some hard numbers brought up to 2023, 2024, what those numbers are going to look like. Caledon, yeah, they're going to have to assume some debt. There's no question about that. Taxes are going to have to go up a little bit. And it's going to have growing pains. There's no question about it. But it's a municipality of 80,000 people going to 300,000. It's a big municipality. The average municipality out of 444 in Ontario is just a little over 10,000. I think it's 10,600 is the average across Ontario, period. So Caledon is big. Can Caledon stand on its own? Absolutely. It's the largest lower tier municipality in Ontario at this point in time. As it changes, will still be a big municipality. But when you start to look at Brant County, Haldimand County, a lot of counties like Chatham-Kent, there's a lot of that are standing on their own. Yeah, that's where Caledon's going to go. There's going to be growing pains. Will the region appeal be completely gone? No. It will be like a service board. 40% of the water to York region comes out of Peel through the Peel system. So the water and wastewater will have to be a utility board, very similar to how Electra works for the hydro for Brampton and Mississauga now. Peel is one of the largest landlords in the province. There's times, I think if you look at it, if you put long-term care, affordable housing, put everything together, I do believe we're bigger than Toronto. I don't know about us Ottawa, but I think Ottawa is still bigger. But we are bigger than Toronto as far as landlord ownership. So that is huge, and it's well run. So you need to keep that whole. So the social services, you got ambulance, you've got the police force. Keep the, do you keep it as a regional or district police force versus breaking it up? I think there's a lot of things like that have to be worked through. And I understand the province is, going to help make that go forward. Right now, I hope the Caledon mayor and council are putting together a transition team to figure out what this looks like and how to move forward. Because, a couple of years is going to come really quick. And to me, can Caledon go on loan? Absolutely, it can. But the enjoyment of having low debt and everything, it'll pay back, especially when we get our employment lands. We have a huge opportunity to grow, and we get this employment growth coming in. It will pull our taxes back, and within 2 decades, Caledon's going to be in really good shape.
So on to that, the employment lands that we talked about. We talked about employment lands and farmland in the 413.
Yeah.
I know we talked about it off camera, but what are your thoughts basically on the 413? Because you're up there. The 14 is going to cut through basically your area, and where do you see that involved in from farmland to employment lands and environmental assessment?
Well, the environmental assessment's been done and it's been well researched. And to me, is the 413 is definitely needed to take the growth that we're going to be. We're going to be like the size of Markman in 2 decades. We need a 413, but there's an LRT coming with that. That'll allow the Huron, Ontario to come up and be the top link for that. Also links into York, which will get us down to Mississauga and Oakville. So I think people don't look at borders between municipalities where they live. They just want to be able to get around and move effectively. I do believe technology is changing. We're seeing the automobile. We're seeing, things going to electric. I do believe there's going to be interest with hydrogen, but I think there's going to be more interest. I think the next decade is going to be really exciting on what the new modes of transportation, like you were talking about, your cycling and finding cycling avenues and different things. But, the paved shoulders has worked extremely well to allow cyclists, but it's also there for people to walk, and you have to yield to whoever's the slowest moving, right? And, and it's good for farm machinery to get up the roads and to get around cars too. So it has a multi-use. We have to look at that. We've definitely looked at that for quite some time in Caledon, especially around Caledon East. You look at the new development that's been completed. It's called Pathways. What is because people can connect through the whole community and not be out on the road. So I really think it's going to go with community planning. And I think, Buzz, when I was hearing you, some good points. But I think that's what we have to do is make sure council and also get public works to realize this is important. This is how people are moving now.
Yeah, I mean, especially for your employment lands. I mean, you talked about that before. The only way basically right now, I mean, you have Airport Road, you have Huron, Ontario, you have, and then smaller roads crisscrossing. There's no major highway coming,
Yeah, the King Street's the really last one that goes from Terracotta to Bolton, right? So that's your real true one. Charleston only goes part of the way across, but no, absolutely, your east-west connectors. But people are saying, well, it's going to take up farmland. Well, the province, back in the McGuinty government, when they were talking about Greenbelt, they were talking about all this. That's where the population numbers came from in the first place. And that all came in one big package. And I think they're all telling everybody, look at the green belt, but they're not telling you all this whole development that's coming. So that land that's in the white belt where the 413 is going through, if the 413 isn't built, it's either going to be houses or it's going to be factories or something as manufacturing or commercial development of some kind. To say that it's farmland. McGuinty government put the nail in the coffin 20 years ago, right?
When he mentioned that's what you're saying.
Yep. When John Garrettson came out and carved the lines, that's basically this is how it's going to go and how Caledon's going to change. And people think they're blaming the Ford government. Guys, this has been long going. Every government, under the Wynne government, everybody that's gone forth, and even the governments going forward will follow that same mandate. So.
Well, we were having a conversation before the show, and I was suggesting to you, Alan, that maybe we should get the lands. Brampton should get the lands below the 413. And you started mentioning Ken Willens to me, and I'm thinking, Ken Willens, this has been on the books for a long time.
Yeah, something to do that'd be the dumbest thing that ever happened. And it sounds great, but I'll tell you that way. You'll kill Caledon. You'll bankrupt it. Caledon needs that infrastructure to be able to move forward, because 80% of Caledon's protected that has the green belt, Oak Ridges, Moraine, the Niagara Escarpment. So there's a lot of area that isn't going to grow, that's going to remain pristine. It's going to be the heart and the lungs of the development to the south. Caledon needs that 20% of that white belt that we have. We're going to definitely need to keep ourselves viable to be able to afford to live here. Or if not, it's just going to be a place for the rich, and everybody else is going to be driven out by taxation.
Well, if Caledon grows to 300,000 people, maybe at that point Brampton will amalgamate Caledon. That would be very interesting.
I think at this point, I think the province has definitely said, okay, all three you got to go figure out how to go this, how to break this up and how to go forward. And I think I got to give Mayor Brown credit. I think he's been on point. He's done his homework, and he's dead on. And Caledon's just we got to ramp up and get our homework done to know exactly where we stand and how this is going to happen. But on the other hand, we got to make sure how Peel Region is going to look and how that's going to continue on, because the services have to be delivered. Because if you don't, you're going to hurt a lot of vulnerable people. And it's not Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon's taking care of that. It's the region. And
I got my
we got to look after. It's so there's a lot of work to get done. They say 2 years. Oh, holy doodle! There's a lot of work to get done here.
Well, that's what I was going to mention. 2 years goes, as you said, Alan, very, very quickly. And if you're not on top of this now, I know Mayor Patrick Brown. I mean, he's talking already about Mississauga's got to pay its fair share. We're talking billions of dollars where it's going to come from. He's already advocating that. Right. So if you're going to do it, as you said before, council should be getting together, up in your neck of the woods and sitting down with some sort of, where is it going to affect us? How we can advocate for this, and this. But 2 years goes pretty quick. So,
yeah. And, and I know council's, definitely having that discussion today. I'm not there anymore. But by keeping my ear to the ground on what's going on. But okay, guys, let's get moving. Let's get on to this. But joking, that was always the inside track that Ken Wellens was always teasing Neville Cope, who was the mayor of Caledon at the time. Maybe we'll just annex part of, up to King. I think it was up to King Street,
okay,
where it was always the joke, and it was a lot of kidding going on, and that did carry on for a number of times, but it was always in good fun. But Caledon needs what it needs, that south portion to be able to be viable. Brampton's well laid out. I think Brampton just needs to, they want to annex more. No, I think Brampton needs to look after Brampton and take care of what they've got. And they've got huge opportunity. Their land, this is time now. Get universities, get the next level of
hospital.
Really hospital, what the next part of what the city's going to be. They don't need to be worrying about annexation. What they need to do is look after how to be that big city that probably could be bigger than Mississauga down the road, right?
Well, Alan, how does the dynamics change now with the negotiating power of each municipality now that Bonnie has decided to basically run against Doug Ford? Don't you think Brampton and Caledon now have a kind of a bigger or a more open, direct path to Doug Ford than Mississauga?
We could. I got to say, the one thing I've noticed I kind of faulted the previous provincial leaders, and I'll say this from experience, the partisan got in the way. The one thing is, I will say with the Ford government, they can put the partisan politics aside. Bonnie's always been a very strong liberal, but Doug has, come in and has expanded Trillium Hospital. Look at all the infrastructure investments that Ford's done that. And to me, a lot of times, if you're more part of the political lines, you're set outside looking. I got to tell you, the premier looks at it as trying to get this, and this province is clicking. It's thriving. The business acumen is really strong here in the province, and I think the province is doing extremely well. And it's gonna, I think, unless the Ford government really messes something up in the next really makes a big mistake somewhere along the next 4 years, I think it's going to be tough to have them, because the results are proven that they're doing a good job. And it's thriving, and that's the thing. It didn't matter if it's Bonnie Patrick or Caledon or the neighboring municipalities. Some of the leaders aren't afraid to wear their colored hat, and it hasn't mattered. Ford has always come in and treated everybody and has put the investments where they need to be put, and put politics aside. And I commend the government for that.
Well, Alan, we don't want to take up too much time. We'd like to invite you back in as this goes forward, because we got 2 years to talk about it until it's on.
we do, don't we? We do. But thanks. And I know you were saying you're going to follow up in the 413, but I think that's the one thing we got to say is, look, guys, the land has already been taken out of play. Like, it's still being farmed, yes. But, that was decided 20 years ago that it was either going to be some kind of development. But to have that development, we got to have the infrastructure too. But I got to tell you, everybody's talking about the highway, but the 413 all the way along in the discussion is putting an LRT through there. And I think that is so crucial, especially for Caledon with all the development. If we can start to build off of that as a major link, wow, I think that is going to be great for the community. And I think too, you're going to see connected communities coming forward. We got Mayfield West now with the ubiquitous Wi-Fi, where and that whole, you stay within the community. You don't need a phone plan. You can see where your kids are. You can have your Amazon doors so that your package arrives. You can just put it through, and it clicks on your phone. You know what's going on. You can do everything from your phone to your home, and I think there's a lot of, as you were talking about, intelligent AI that's all starting to happen, but the home communities and everything now, there's so much that's happening and so much opportunity too. Yeah, it's scary where it can go, but I think there's a lot of positives that can make people's quality of life much better too.
All right. Well, Alan, thank you very much for joining us. We look forward to talking again. You're always nice to talk to. You bring a different perspective than Faz and myself. So, it's plus you bring your years of experience and the know-how and, all the people in the background. And it's important to get that different perspective because, as we said before, there's too many people looking at their cell phone rather than just talking to people who know.
Isn't that the truth?
Thank you for joining us. You can go have dinner now. Make sure the wife, has it on time. And we look forward.
What? I can participate now, and I got a poker here now, and I'm having fun with that.
Well, perfect.
Did you dress up just for us today, Alan?
I did.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You know what? To me is I don't do this very often anymore. You wouldn't even recognize me if I'm out on the farm, like I got my bib overalls on and a golf shirt. You wouldn't even know when I get a ball cap on. I'm incognito. No one knows who I am.
Well, sometimes that's good.
But I think to me, I have a lot of respect for what you guys are doing. And to me I think putting on a shirt and tie shows that I have respect for what you guys are trying to do. So,
well, thanks very much, Alan, and we'll let you go. And we look forward to talking to you in the future. We'll reach out if there's something interesting that we want your comment on, which is fantastic.
Absolutely, guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much. All right. So Faz went over a bit, but it's always interesting to listen what Alan has to say in regards to Caledon, and
And Nikki likes him too.
Yeah. Okay. So that's it. It's a wrap, right?
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. I know Alan says it'll be tough for Bonnie to beat Doug Ford. I think if anybody can beat Doug Ford, it's somebody like Bonnie Crombie. So it'll be a fun race to watch. You and I are into kind of the politics, Don. So I think we got a gift here with Bonnie trying to run against Doug. It'll be interesting to see the interactions, not just between the two, but the municipalities as well.
Well, it'll be interesting to see who the candidates that they field are. They're going to recycle and recycle and recycle, or are they going to actually bring new faces into the
that's
party?
Another thing. It's at the ward level. I hope we see some fresh faces, not the same people. Yeah, I'm not convinced we will, though.
Well, let's find out. We'll see. There's a lot of raceway left on this track, so we're going to end it there. And thank you for joining us. And we won't see you next week because I'll be out unless Faz wants to, do a special on gas.
We'll see. I'm not sure I have the confidence to go on my own.
All right. Okay.
I need you, Don.
Yeah. Well. All right. There you go. You said it. All right. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Bye-bye.